Es que no puedo decir nada. ¿Qué es el minini? Flequillo. No, pero que tengo esto. Ahora, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you for joining this afternoon. We are going to start this session now by presenting one of the latest results of the project steps. You've been hearing this morning about the student rights charter, also about the index, and one of the latest, but not the only one, result from the project is the innovative practice guide. That we have recently finalized and that we want to present today to all of you, so you know more about it and you can use it. So let's start, and yes, let's go for it. So just to give you a bit of context, a quick information on what is this innovative practice guide. Basically, it's a guide that we have created with good and best practices that we have been gathering among the partners of the project. So some examples of those practices that are promoting and fostering the student participation within the higher education system, basically. So just really quickly, we have compiled those practices in basically a guide, really user-friendly and easy to read and to replicate, but by any other university who might be interested in using those ideas. And the idea is to promote and to disseminate this guide through higher education institutions, but not only, also to student organizations, student representatives who can get some ideas, of course, contextualizing those practices and to apply in their own context. So you can see in this practice, I will show it to you later and we will go into details. But basically, we've been structuring those practices according to the dimensions that we have used through the project and through the other results. So I won't go into details because you already hear about the Student Rights Charter and about the index, and it's the same definitions, dimensions, areas that we were using. So those 4 that you can see here. In this guide, we are basically collecting those practices, covering the different aspects and dimensions of the participation of students. And well, why we decided to do this guide, this tool, a practical tool, it's basically because we understood that sometimes it's happening that in some universities, good practices are happening, but then those are getting lost, or not, other universities are not really implementing them because they don't know about it. So of course, we are not covering all the good practices, innovative practices in this guide. There is thousands of those around Europe and non-EU countries, but we are at least covering those that within our networks, within the partners of the staff project, we managed to collect. Well, you know already, Bologna process, the increased student engagement has become a priority. And we've seen as well, and that was showed in the previous presentation about the index, that student participation is still and currently falling short of desired standards by students, but also by higher education institutions. And that's the reason why together with the other results, we wanted to do this guide, that it can be a practical tool that yourself as student representatives can use, replicate, or just innovate and go through to create another kind of practices. So yes, the STAPS project has gave us the opportunity to work together with these different partners, different countries, and to try to bring the best practices, the innovative practice around our own networks. So you will see later, but we have collected around 60. It's just an example. Of course, there are many others. Just as I was saying, this was part of the project, and ESU has been working on this, but together and in really close collaboration with the University of Huelva, with the University of Évora, and the Upper Austria, and also DEVA. So all the consortium has worked to get to know what's happening in those universities, not only the ones from the partners, but also external universities to the consortium. How we were doing this? Well, basically we were using a survey that was translated to the different languages of the project partners. And with the findings of this survey, we were just adapting and understanding how those practices were fitting in our structure and our definition of the different dimensions of student participation. The guide is available right now in the project website. We will share it with you and we will check later. For the moment, it's just in English, but the idea is as well to translate it to other languages or whatever, we'll see. And yes, one of the innovative aspects of this guide is that collects practices that are not only local, regional, national, but also European level. So these different levels within institutions give this innovative approach to the guide. Well, as I was saying, not to repeat too much, the objectives is to bring those innovative practices to make and to train some students, leaders, and higher educations to continue influencing those kind of practices, basically to foster student participation. Just to mention here that we have many practices that has been implemented by the students themselves, and some others that have been implemented together with the students. So both directions, that was really important for us. And yes, also to provide those institutions with some methodologies, even if you won't replicate the same practice because it makes no sense in your context. Maybe they can replicate the methodology or something like that. So it can bring inspiration to institutions to really foster student participation, which is in line with the other results that we were mentioning before. So here I will just want you to reflect, and maybe if someone wants to share, just raise your hand, is if you consider your university or your higher education community, if it's being innovative, or if it's trying but it's not really managing to get to that innovation that you would like to see in your university. And if so, why is that happening? Why is not happening? So just I launch the question to you. Maybe you can reflect and maybe share your thoughts later. The survey, the defined areas, and well, this was the most, let's say, research work within the survey, because of course we were receiving many responses, different languages, different people sharing that information. So just to compile everything in the most coherent way. And I hope that we managed to have a guide that is understandable and comprehensive. What else? Yeah, here just to mention some of those stakeholders, universities that were helping us to develop this guide. As you see, we have student unions, we have higher education institutions from Spain, from Ireland, from Poland, from Portugal, so on, so on. So those are just some of the universities that were collaborating or stakeholders. Those are the sections that we are covering in the guide. We have, all the practices has been divided into these different sections. We have the fostering student engagement, student info point, soft competencies, then practices related to social inclusion and community development. We have as well fostering student engagement based on interest that I will explain a bit more later. And then we have a concrete point on 2 different projects. So the STEPS, that is another project who has been developing as well some good practices on fostering student participation, but also we have included the outputs of this project that we've been sharing with you before. So the Student Rights Charter and the index as well. Just to give you a bit of insights, but the best is for you later to go through the guide and to check yourself. On one of the sections, for example, soft competencies, the most of the practices that we have include, it's different events, events, meeting, whatever, things that are including or gathering things related to communication, to emotional training, social, cultural, tandems of different languages. So all those things are covered in this category of soft competences. Then we have, for example, the student info point, that basically is those practices that are assisting new students or students who are already in the university, but basically to improve their social and communication skills when they are leaving the university community. And well, we have practices of a lot of things. Of course, we have a section as well on practices related to COVID. As you know, many things happen and change in the university community within COVID-19. So we have as well a section on COVID-19 related practices. Well, as I was saying, this has been finalized recently, so we don't have really right now an impact, but I can tell you that what the consortium is expecting from this guide is basically to encourage higher education, your universities, to really climb the ladder of participation. We want to give those good practices, innovative practices, to basically inspire them to do the same or to do it in a different way, but getting to the goal of fostering student participation, but also, and this is really linked with what STAPS is trying to do, is to lay the foundations of a European network focusing on the development of new practices. As I was saying, and related to the ladder of participation, I don't know if you are familiarized, but we need to ensure that there is a minimum participation. This is why we are here for this event. And we really appreciate your involvement because basically we don't want to get to the point that students are being instrumentalized, but they are part of their student life. So yes, that I'm gonna pass. And yes, this is a question as well that we would love to hear from you. Now, later, whenever you consider, if you can reflect on it, like how yourself, how from your position, how among your colleagues, how would you foster student participation in your context, of course, because the context matter, and it's not the same to implement an innovative practice in a country that in another one. But yes, also this is a question for higher university institutions, for the university staff, for anyone who is involved in the education system. So yes, we have realized from those practices that students and stakeholders were sharing with us that student participation comes from that idea of identifying a problem. Everything always starts with that, with a problem that you want to solve, and then you come with an idea to solve it. And yes, that always organizing little events, workshops, whatever, can help students to share different opinion ideas that will bring more work and more focus on important topics that sometimes they are just there, but no one is really talking about it. And yes, always foster the student participation based on what matters to students. So yeah, I will skip this maybe for later for the questions. Just showing you different examples for you to understand how the guide is working. You will see that we have the description of the whole practice, but we have always the title, and we have the country, the institution, the mode, because we have been making the difference among offline and online practices, of course, and how much participants were involved. For example, in this one that was implemented in Portugal, they had 38 participants, and well, yeah, you can read more in the guide. And the same, for example, for this one that was implemented during pandemic times, and you have all the information as well, like the key information, and then always the structure and some visuals. So this is how our guide looks like. Just for sum up a bit, we hope that the different practices that we are showing in this guide can serve your institutions, yourself as a student representative, as an inspiration to maybe do something. And yes, to foster the student engagement, social inclusion, community development, all those things that really matters. And yes, as I was saying, it's just better if you can download the publication, discover more. And of course, if you have any questions to ask, you can just let us know. And well, just letting you know that here, yes, we have included in the guide as well at the end, those reflective questions, because we thought those and much more, but we thought that it was important maybe when using the guide to have some questions, some guides that can make you reflect and understand if your university is really doing well when talking about student participation. So those are just some examples that you can use to reflect yourself, but I guess within this event, you have been already thinking a lot on that. So that's great because it's the purpose of this event. And well, as we have everywhere, like, don't forget that, you have the right to participate and shape the decisions and everything that matters, and shape your education. So I hope that, my colleagues will share with you in the Zoom probably, but if not, you have the publication in our website from the project. And that's everything from my side. Thank you. See, if anyone has any question, maybe not, or not a question, but if you were reflecting while I was doing this presentation and you want to share your thoughts. Sí.
Te van a dar el micro para que se te escuche. Ahí está Santa.
I don't think it's on. Hello? It's not on.
Sí, hola, ábremelo, no suena. Sí, sí, sí. Hola, hola, sí, sí. Ahora, sube un poquito más. Sí, hola, hola. Sí, ahora sí.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very informative. And it was really interesting to see the different models. Wanted to ask, I suppose, as somebody that's been involved in this project and has seen different innovative models that exist across different countries and institutions, were there any interesting findings that you saw, maybe different models that that surprised you, maybe? Like, it'd be good to have your perspective actually on the different models that came across. And thank you.
Thank you, Samson. Yeah, indeed, I think now it's too loud, no? Yeah, we were surprised a lot with the practices related to COVID because we saw how solidarity and how students, concretely the practices related to COVID are really implemented by students themselves with the support, of course, of their institutions, but how they were managing to bring together some ideas and this network of cooperation among them and to, I don't know, just think something out of the blue and implement it in these difficult times. So those related to COVID, I think they are really, really interesting. And well, there is one that really got our attention because it was something really different that what you usually see, and it was a competition of students from the engineering faculty, and they are like actually now part of world competition. So things that can be really related to the governance or really related to a social life. So there is a bit of everything, and I think that's the interesting thing of this guide that covers all the dimensions and has like really, I don't know, governance or more formal practices, and some others that are not really formal or they are not maybe so innovative, but at the same time they are bringing something positive to the community. So yeah, more or less, but I would say for all of you to go through it, it's really simple. I just wanted to share the screen so you can see it, if that's possible. Yeah, so this is the publication, and yeah, you have some executive information that always needs to go in a publication. This is the content, the index, and then, for example, let's go to the first part of this one. Those are those practices related to fostering student engagement. There is an explanation of why we consider that those practices should be part of this section. And then, for example, you have already this, the practice and the description and some pictures and so on and so on. So yeah, I hope I answer your question, but thank you. No,
Thank you so much. Hi, yeah, thank you so much, Maria, for the really interesting presentation. I think it looks like an amazing publication, and I really feel encouraged, and I hope everybody here feels encouraged to spread this and disseminate this and use this in their own environment as well. I was interested in how you mentioned that the different levels are all represented in this publication, and you looked at all of them. Can you maybe expand a little bit on that, what you saw, maybe come back in the different levels? What's kind of the interaction between them that you saw in the different initiatives, if you can say anything about this?
Yeah, I mean, the most of the practices, they are more happening on the local or national level, but there are some that after some years of those practices happening, they manage to, yeah, to have a bigger impact on the European level, for example, and has this, yeah, let's say European dimension or international dimension, but the most of them, and this is a finding as well, you see that the practices that has more impact are the ones that are happening on the local level, like the grassroots, and what really you see the impact. Like you will see that there is a part on the practices that is more focused, okay, not in this case, on the impact itself, because we were really interested in the description, but also like what was the impact. I mean, you had here, for example, 71,000 participants going to that practice itself, but what was the impact? I mean, we know that it's always really difficult to get maybe a qualitative impact. Quantitative always is easy, but yeah, you see that the impact in those practices happening at really local or national level, it's bigger. But there are some practices as well that happen on the other level.
Buenas, María. ¿Habéis encontrado alguna práctica que esté enfocada en colectivos subrepresentados?
Pues, a ver, sé que hay, pero claro, no me las... Okay, sí, yeah, no, they are having the interpretation. Yeah, I cannot remember right now. There are so many practices, but I remember, yeah, there was a practice. There is a practice related to migration and disadvantaged groups. There is as well for disability students, students with disabilities, and so on. But yeah, I cannot tell you the more. Sorry. Okay, then that's all. I mean, we are going to be here, so you will have the time to go through it. If you have any questions, just let us know. And thank you. Voilà.